Hi, I may have found a configuration that works, but I'm not sure. I've been trying awfully hard, and you can see that I'm stubborn enough. So, Dolores, can you hear me? Can you hear me? How's my sound? Hi, I may have found a configuration that works, but I'm not sure. I've been trying awfully hard, and you can see that I'm stubborn enough. So, Dolores, can you hear me? Can you hear me? How's my sound? Hi, I may have found a configuration that works, but I'm not sure. I've been trying awfully hard, and you can see that I'm stubborn enough. So, Dolores, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, here we go. It seems to be repeating. The sound. Hi. Oh, here we go. Okay. Can you hear me now? Seems to be repeating. The sound. Hi. Can you hear me now? Steve, hi. Can everybody still hear me? We were getting an echo then, but it seems more normal, right? I know it was repeating. Is it still repeating? Is it still repeating with a delay? Yes, you can hear. Is it repeating or has it stopped repeating? Please share for me because I haven't been able to share this. I do have to share to one place. I have to make sure this is public. So if my computer will cooperate, let me knock down the share menu. Yes, I'm more normal now, right? Good. Okay. I'll just make sure this is public. They tell me it's been shared to my timeline. So Bernie has won big time. Yes, he has won big time, I know, and I plan to cover it. So I'm going to switch my view now and start to cover this. Okay, so let me go to my. This is the Las Vegas Review Journal. I'm coming in right now. I hope. You probably see it spinning around. There it is. These are the live results. And Bernie now has 40.1% of the delegate equivalents. Joe Biden has 23.8%. I'm sorry, has 22.6%. This is the final alignment of delegate equivalents. So Bernie has just about doubled Joe Biden. Unfortunately, Mayor Pete has 16.7%, which means he is still in the running to get some delegates. However, Elizabeth Warren is not. She's got only 10.0%. So these still are live results, I believe. I don't believe all the counties are in. I don't know what percent are in. Oh, so statewide, it turns out. Okay, it's 23% is in statewide. Oh, here we have some more results. So Buttigieg is still at 17.0%. But there's still a lot of counting to do. I think there are forecasts from the major outlets, but this is what the live results counts actually shows. Huh? I'm sorry, Bonnie, what'd you say? Okay, good. That's good. Unfortunately, this is not showing. Okay, can you see me now? It seemed to have disappeared. Hmm. You're seeing a landscape, huh? No, according to what I'm seeing on Facebook, there are 7 people watching. Susan Eldridge is here, Steve Wolfbrandt is here, and Dolores Pierce and Russell Coleman say my sound is normal now. But now I'm having some visual problems. Well, now I no longer am, so that's promising. So I'm going to go back here and see if you can see this. Oh, yes, you can see it. So here we go. This is with 22.9% of the precincts in. There are results being uh, actually projected by the major networks, I think, which are different. But this is the actual count, okay, at this point. Anyway, this is being declared as a big Bernie victory. I don't know yet whether uh, it's going to be as big a victory as all that. It's essential that in the final count that is under 15% for Mayor Pete. That is not the situation right now, unfortunately. So that is a problem that I hope is going to clear up. Oh no, here's Mayor Pete in this count. In this count, okay, the live results, Mayor Pete has only 566, which is only 13.4%. So if that holds, that will be very good. Oh, I'm sorry. After the final alignment, it's 17.0%. And that's the problem. We want that to go uh, under 17%. These results look a little funny to me. People leaving Bernie Sanders to go to Mayor Pete for the second alignment. It doesn't look right. But Anyway, that's what is being reported here. I think we may find there's some fooling around in there. But anyway, this one I wanted to make mainly about Michael Bloomberg. And what I wanted to do was to go over the record, okay, of Mr. Bloomberg. And there was an article in Counterpunch. For some reason, my camera is not available there. I don't know why. Let me go back here. Where my camera is available, and then go back here again and find out why it is not available. I have no idea why. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I do have an idea why. I want to remove this and I want to add this. Then I want to adjust that a little bit and move it over here. Now I think we're good to go. I think I got it. Let me check the screen. Check this screen. Now it looks pretty good. And let me go back to Mr. Bloomberg is the Equal Evil by Nicholas Levis. Anyway, this is a very interesting article. It goes over the record, okay, of Mr. Bloomberg's record, okay, or Mayor Bloomberg's record. And the author declares, even were it possible to persuade me to vote blue no matter who, in Bloomberg's case, there is little point in trying. Tens of millions of others who might vote for a Democrat against Trump will never vote for Mayor Bloomberg, the Republican oligarch, if he seizes control of the party. I think this point is very well taken. Who is Bloomberg? He's a long-standing Republican billionaire from New York City, rated as one of the 10 richest men in the United States. He supported George W. Bush for president in 2000 and endorsed the re-election of George W. Bush in 2004. As Speaker at the Republican nominating convention in New York that year, the mayor heaped praise on the criminal invasion of Iraq and the war on terror. In 2008, Bloomberg endorsed John McCain against Senator Obama, then Senator Obama. In the years that followed, he continued to endorse and fund Republican candidates, okay, and many Republican candidates. He threw millions in PAC money behind Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania. In a close Senate election, the Toomey won. Now, Toomey might not have won that Senate election. He threw millions in PAC money behind Pat Toomey. It was a relatively close election, and Toomey might well have lost. And the Democrats would have one more Senate seat now. That was in 2016, the year of Trump's election. In 2014, the mayor donated to the re-election campaigns of Republican Senators Susan Collins and Lindsey Graham. In 2012, he also endorsed and funded the Republican Scott Brown against Elizabeth Warren. On the federal level, in short, his money has been deployed to keep Republican control of Congress, especially the Senate, and thus help to assure the GOP domination of the judicial appointments process. It does not matter what he says, pretends, or thinks he was doing, but through his actions he bears partial responsibility for the blocking of the Garland appointment and the approval of the Gorsuch and Kavanaugh appointments to the Supreme Court. Now, on the record, that seems clear. It doesn't seem like an exaggerated statement at all. No credible case can be made that concern about the conservative makeup of the Supreme Court is a priority to him, nor can it be assured that this two-faced actor would appoint more liberal judges than Trump. Since 2018, he's been doing business as a Democrat, having switched his nominal party affiliation to accommodate his new political ambitions. Just in time for the run in 2020, right? He continues to support some candidates who are Republicans, now doing so in the age of Trump. In his career as a political donor, he spent about $2 billion in dark money contributions and philanthropic donations to causes favored by local politicians, especially mayors. That was documented in the New York Times on the 15th day of February. This flood of cash has brought a stable of endorsers for his presidential run, from politicians willing to sell their reputations and services, like Stacey Abrams in Georgia. Following a few $100,000 in donations to the DNC, he also has won the DNC's favor, maybe we could say the heart of the DNC. I heard somebody say today on the Status Quo show that he had bought the affections of the DNC for $300 million. That was a misspeak or a momentary failure, actually, okay, of memory. He won the DNC's favor, or the DNC's heart, if you will, with a paltry donation of $325,000. The DNC comes cheap. They've admitted some Bloomberg personnel into key party positions at the DNC, and they changed their debate qualification rules to make it possible for him to take the stage at the Nevada debate days before the Nevada caucus. Of course, as we all know, he bombed in that particular debate. But we must remember that other candidates were excluded from earlier debates because they were required to have 200,000 donors, individual donors. Bloomberg has no other donors except himself. Was he a mayor or was he a real estate kingpin? And is there a difference, the author asks. When he was a mayor for a dozen years, he flew several times a month on the average to his compound in Bermuda, where he could manage his global financial empire and presumably vast unaccountable offshore assets. Yes, they must be vast, since he's estimated to be worth $60 billion. He placed, while he was mayor, officially placed the companies in a blind trust that were managed by associates. One of them, Dan Doctoroff, first served the Bloomberg administration for a few years as its top city planner, working closely with the mayor before proceeding to the management of the mayor's sequestered billions. What was done in Bermuda remains confidential today, but the mayor's estimated wealth rose from about $2 billion at the start of his mayoral tenure in January 2002 to around 30 billion by the time he left office in January 2014. Amazing, huh? 7 years later, his wealth is given as 55 billion one month, 60 billion the next month. As Li Fang said in The Intercept, 5 billion is a rounding error. As mayor of New York, he set off the largest wave of 20-year tax exemptions for new housing towers and other jumbo developments in the history of the city. So rent, of course, became impossibly high. Large populations, uh, and those were mostly black and brown people, were displaced. Historic neighborhoods turned into dull mall environments. And he became the latest of several mayors of New York to announce to lifelong New Yorkers that if they can't afford to live here, they should move out. The homeless population skyrocketed. He went on record opposing the minimum wage and mocking the idea of a living wage as a communist plot. Amazing, right? As a communist plot. Posing as an education reformer, he aggressively pursued charter school privatization plans, constantly attacked teachers and their unions, and advocated larger school class sizes. As a servant to the city's real estate and finance sectors, he was an ally above all of developers like, you guessed it, Donald Trump. There is good reason why you can find so many pictures of the two of them laughing together. Then, under the heading of authoritarian tyrant, the author says, if the term seems exaggerated, consider that in the original Greek, a tyrant was a city boss. Yeah, the boss of a city-state, because Greece was comprised of city-states. Everyone is now recalling Bloomberg's massive six-fold expansion of the stop and frisk program he inherited from Giuliani, which was eventually ruled constitutional. But this was only one part of an intensely carceral, punitive, and racially targeted approach to the city's black and brown populations. His racist statements in justifying these policies are well known. He extended the endless war on drugs. More people went to prison for marijuana possession. He still wishes to keep it illegal and declared that marijuana legalization is the stupidest thing anybody's ever done. As under Giuliani, countless innocents were incarcerated on petty charges. And he goes on with a number of statements of this kind, but also points out that Bloomberg oversaw the violent, and the militarized expulsion of the peaceful Occupy Wall Street process from Zuccotti Park in November 2011, an action which was coordinated through the Department of Homeland Security with the simultaneous expulsions of dozens of other Occupy encampments in big cities around the country. In New York, the action was run through a new office that for the first time brought all city, state, and federal law enforcement agencies together with liaisons from corporate headquarters into a single underground command center. Consider, though, if you remember the Occupy Wall Street protests, one of the leading repressors of it was Bloomberg, and the repression that he ordered and that he oversaw involved wholesale violations of the civil liberties and the civil rights of the occupiers who were exercising their constitutional rights, of protest in New York City. What Mayor Bloomberg did was illegal, and the city has lost a number of suits coming out of the Occupy movement situation. Now, Occupy led to a lot of other things. Okay, among them, I think it led to the Bernie Sanders movement. Okay, and that's good. But Bloomberg used illegal methods to repress it. Okay, in New York City, he used the methods of a dictator, and he succeeded. And he was aided and abetted by the Obama administration, of course. Going on with the article, when it became known that a judge was considering declaring stop and frisk unconstitutional, as she then did, what Bloomberg did was to activate PR and press teams to defame her in advance as unhinged and unreliable. Sound like Trump? Yes. Okay, as Levis says, this shows Bloomberg's contempt for the judiciary and the rule of law. Those who credibly fear, quote, President for life or other lawless scenarios with Trump need also to recall that the similarly old and unhappily disposed Mayor Bloomberg, who had claimed to support the term limit laws in New York, switched suddenly to advocating and achieving a one-time repeal of the law in 2009. This allowed him to buy a third term with the most expensive mayoral campaign in history, spending sums that were variously estimated at $110 to nearly $200 million. One half of the amount, by the way, that he has now already spent in the presidential campaign. I added that. That was not the author's. Back to the article. Just like his current campaign, this largesse won the lockstep report of the city's corporate mass media. He had thousands on staff, with paid employees accosting people on the street, and no evidence of any volunteers. He didn't use volunteers. He used hired guns. Back in 2001, he was set to lose his original run for mayor as a Republican candidate, and the primary election scheduled for September 11th was postponed due to the attacks on the Trade Center. Mayor Giuliani, whom Mayor Bloomberg had always supported, called for the postponement of the general election and a 4-month extension of his own term, effectively demanding that New York City, for the first time in 214 years, be placed under an ad hoc dictatorship of emergency rule. Bloomberg supported Giuliani's proposal before it was axed due to widespread opposition. He exploited the fear after the attacks by running an expensive scaremongering campaign and managed to win the election. As mayor, he supported all the emergency measures and new repressive policies and agencies that were initiated by the Bush administration, including the USA Patriot Act, the Homeland Security Department, the blanket communications surveillance programs, and the increased direct intervention of the CIA in setting local police policy. City of New York overturned limits on the use of police videos against protesters. The city became a testing ground for new domestic surveillance and repression programs. Guess what he'll do if he ever gets to be the president of the United States? Guess what he'll do? He'll use the architecture set up by the Obama administration and the Trump administration to extend domestic surveillance and repression programs. Of course he'll do that. He did it in New York. Why wouldn't he do it as president? The NYPD was deployed to spy on the Muslims at mosques and followed people to jurisdictions in other states without informing the local authorities. 0 actual terrorist plots were uncovered by these programs. when this illegal action was covered in a report commissioned by the Center for American Progress, the Clinton think tank, I might add. That the publication of the report was abruptly delayed until the chapter on the NYPD program was excised from the report. The Bloomberg had donated 1.5 million to CAP, the third way think tank, influential with the Democratic Party right wing. Of course, it's the Democratic Party right wing, but CAP is. It's not a progressive think tank at all. And recently, by the way, it has entirely sold out to Bloomberg, who made, I understand, a $3 million contribution recently. Contribution to CAP, that is, basically keeping it in business or certainly helping to do so. So Bloomberg later reiterated support for total federal surveillance programs covering all phone calls and messages in the world. He told an interviewer that we'd better hope the NSA is reading all of our emails, quote unquote. So if you want to continue the surveillance state, go ahead and support old Michael Bloomberg. And by the way, let's ask ourselves, is this record I've gone through so far, is this the record of a Democrat? Is this the record of a progressive? Or is this the record of a Republican who bought his way into the primary of the Democratic Party? And not just a Republican, of a Bush-style Republican, maybe even a Trump-style Republican. And the next category in the article is Trumpian politician. So Bloomberg supports high military spending, but presents himself as a deficit hawk. This is a most enduring feature of his record, by the way. He's presented himself as a deficit hawk for many, many years. He was a main originator and supporter of the No Labels movement, which tried to start a third party. And he was one of the biggest contributors to the No Labels movement, as was Peter G. Peterson before he died. Okay. And along with Treasury Secretary Mnuchin and the worst kind of Democrats, he's been a speaker at summits of the Peterson Foundation, as, by the way, has Nancy Pelosi been, and has aligned himself with their efforts to cut or privatize Social Security and Medicare. Is this a Democrat or is this a Republican? During the recent budget sequester, he expressed concern that temporary spending cuts might devastate defense. He went down like $750 billion ain't enough, folks. He went on to say there are ways to slowly decrease the benefits or raise the eligibility age for Social Security and Medicare. He recommended the institution of more copays so that people would make less use of medical services. And to add a comment here, so that more people would die. His remedy, obviously, was, as Alan Grayson used to say when he was in the Congress, is evidently the Republican plan. Don't get sick, but if you do, die quickly. While he derides the single-payer healthcare system common around the world as an unobtainable fantasy, he also did not support the institution of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. There's no reason to believe current claims that he would maintain the Affordable Care Act. After all, he's beholden to no one and changes his claims as required by political convenience. I wouldn't say he's beholden, to no one. He's not beholden to anybody in the normal political system. He is, of course, beholden to his own financial interests. He doesn't want to hurt those. So he's probably not about to do anything as president that would harm his own financial interests, but rather would do things for his general financial interests, like put through more tax cuts, of course, on the wealthy, knowing that even if he put everything into a blind trust, That trust would probably be such that tax cuts would benefit that trust. Anyway, as mayor of New York, he supported fingerprinting for SNAP recipients and public housing residents, in keeping with his many recorded public statements deriding the poor and black and brown people in particular. If his presidential campaign proceeds, you'll be hearing these statements used against him on a permanent loop. You will. Bloomberg's supposed concern for the climate crisis as an issue is undermined by his unwillingness to spend anything to act on it. Now, this is a very, very, very important point. And he goes on and says, this would be, since this would be unaffordable. Yes, since he would view this as unaffordable, he would never, never put together the $16.2 trillion program to combat the climate emergency, would he? Bernie Sanders has done that. But Mayor Bloomberg would never do that because it would be more important to be fiscally responsible and to spend more money on weapons and spend more money on private prisons. Going on with the article, he mocks the Green New Deal and the federal jobs guarantee that it would necessarily entail. Just last night, we had a live stream interview of a candidate for the Senate in Georgia who, if you heard or watched, the live stream last night, then you know how transformative the federal jobs guarantee is and how important it is to the Green New Deal. But he would find it unaffordable. How is this lip service or support for a toothless climate tax better than Trump's overt denialism of the ongoing ecological catastrophe and global extinction event? And the author asks, what pipeline is Bloomberg going to block? What lands that Trump has given to the drillers and loggers and polluters is Bloomberg going to restore as protected wilderness? What ecologically destructive project is he going to oppose if a fellow capitalist intends to start it? What international initiatives is he going to lead on behalf of controlling the capitalist drive to burn the planet for profit? What difference is it going to make to life on this planet if this fraud claims to believe the science, or if his foundation pays off select astroturf groups that then praise him as an environmentalist? I think all these points are tremendously well taken. And the author goes on. So Bloomberg neither portends nor promises any change in the aggressive foreign policy interventionism, escalated bombing campaigns, or primacy of the military budget under the Trump-Pence GOP regime. He has never suggested any opposition to the perpetual wars. He would be wedded to the Saudi-Israeli alliance, exactly like Trump's. His business interests are closely linked with the Saudi and Gulf royalists, just like Trump's. He opposed the Iran deal and supports by recognizing Jerusalem as the Israeli capital. During the large-scale Israeli assaults on Gaza in 2008 and 9 and 2014, the mayor flew to Israel, calling these visits expressions of New York City support for Tel Aviv. On these occasions, the Israeli military bombed the captive and defenseless population of the blockaded Gaza Strip continuously from the air, the first time for 3 weeks consecutively, and turning hundreds of houses into rubble. The first of these offenses was timed to occur before the inauguration of Obama, whom the right-wing Israeli establishment considered weak in his support for Israeli policy. The mayor of New York, meanwhile, dropped all business to rush to Israel's defense. Through his foundation, Mayor Bloomberg has thrown hundreds of millions of dollars around in exchange for his current spate of endorsements from Democrats and liberals, performing the important service of revealing which mayors, politicians, and activists are willing to sell themselves for cash. Hi, Stacey Abrams. He is documentably and programmatically as authoritarian, racist, personally abusive to his underlings, macho and misogynist, and in no way less a warmonger than Donald Trump. My dear sad true blues, says the author, the corporate media are currently exploiting your justifiable trauma about Trump in order to deceive you that there is a substantive difference. You should be outraged. Even if you can still persuade yourself there is a difference, you should be equally outraged if anyone's attempting to buy your country's presidency with their personal cash out of pocket. As bad as American oligarchy has become, this is a new frontier in its systemic corruption. It is not less dangerous than what the Trump GOP Pence regime already has wrought thanks to its own unlimited political spending. If Bloomberg's gambit is not beaten back, and it does not serve as the beginning of reforms to end the rule of pure money in politics, we will be seeing many more oligarchs trying the same stunt in the future. How much of a sucker are you letting yourself be to retrofit this man's record and politics as liberal or blue? If the Democrats were family, then Bloomberg is the loan shark who breaks into the house, puts on the father's blue suit, and holds the children at gunpoint, telling them he's there to save them. Jared Kushner is also a rich guy, possibly richer than his father-in-law, of course, is Donald Trump. Imagine if he turned coat against Trump and bought the DNC and the Democrats. Would you get it then? Or would you tell the people to vote Kush no matter who? Not the worst, but the most effective lie from the Bloomberg campaign is that he would have a better chance of winning against Trump than other candidates. Well, we already see from the record, and I'm gonna skip over the next paragraph or two, uh, that even though Bloomberg shows that he will spend whatever's necessary to cheat and outspend all the rest of the candidates by a ratio of 2 to 3, and to employ twice or 10 times as much paid staff as all of the other campaigns on a national basis, he is providing a lesson not only in why billionaires are bad for society because of the wealth inequality, but are active dangers to democracy because they can buy entire political systems with cash to suit their personal whims. If somehow he should capture the nomination, however, all of this changes. First, the Democratic Party breaks up without a doubt. True blues, do not bother to moralize at me or anyone else. It's pointless. You can strap me down, pay me off, you can brainwash me, but everyone else? You won't be able to herd tens of millions of cats who are on average smarter and wiser than you. Most Americans were never Democrats in the first place. Were they now? You need their votes too. There are among the serious Democratic voters ones who actually mean it. Many will not be impressed with your arguments that a literal Republican with Trumpian politics who conducted a hostile takeover of the party must be given allegiance because he constitutes a lesser evil, quote unquote. This is a scam. It's done. People cannot be made to unsee what Bloomberg is, and even if he cannot pay everyone everyone enough to play along, if his entire fortune were liquidated at the current estimated value and distributed equally among all Americans, we would each receive about $180. The Democratic Party will also smash apart even if Bloomberg fails to capture the nomination for himself, but serves as the kingmaker at a brokered convention that actually denies the nomination to anyone who wins a plurality of the pledged delegates. True blues. There is nothing you can do about it. Understand finally, these are not the threats of any organized force. Your completely imaginary Bernie bros have no central headquarters with which you'll be able to negotiate. The Dem exit will be a long suppressed sociological event, a cat tsunami. Second, a nominated Mayor Bloomberg will be up against members of his own economic class. He's only the world's ninth richest out of 1,500 to 3,000 billionaires. And never mind the ultra trillions available to the major corporate cartels, and never mind the many foreign influences who regularly seek to influence the elections in the U.S. The Trump Pence GOP campaign, the dark money machines who support them, will match and exceed the mayor's spending. Like Mr. Bloomberg, they will feel no limits about lying, cheating, sabotage, or use of fascistoid tactics. And they have a much longer and broader and more successful record of election rigging. It will be easy. They will have no trouble publicizing all of the above and making it sound even worse than I have. They'll have no trouble convincing people who do not support Trump that Bloomberg offers the same shit as Trump. They will barely need to do that because it is true. They'll have no trouble convincing Trump's followers that Bloomberg is the godless Judeo-Bolshevik head of a globalist free trader conspiracy to take away their freedoms, their firearms, their flags, their crosses, their trucks, their triple burgers and big gulps, their children's religious education, and their pride, because this is what many of them already want to believe anyway. Of course, I've just read all that. That's terrific. That's really eloquent, isn't it? In truth, a lot of people who support Trump, and I'm going on now with the article, and many who hate him don't believe any of that, but think everything's fucked anyway. They no longer care what is true, as long as it's good television. Anyway, professional wrestling beats the public service announcement every time, especially when the PSA comes in as dishonest and unctuous a form as Bloomberg, with his unconcealed contempt for the poor, but for minorities, but for farmers, and for workers, and for minorities. Imagine the media carpet bombed with the clip of him explaining why farming is easy and why farmers and industrial workers had it easy because they did not require as much gray matter as tech workers. And how is this different from you, True Blues? You think you're smarter than the average Trump supporter, but you too believe what your emotions prefer. This money bag monster you have persuaded yourselves to call democratic, moderate, and electable will be obliterated in the field. I think he will. He will be obliterated in the field because he offers no alternative to Trump. He offers no alternative to Trump. No alternative at all. But I wanted to say something important, and Bonnie put something in front of my face, and now I don't remember what I was going to say. Okay, but it'll come back to me in just a second. The point being that we cannot allow this mayor to go on claiming that he is a Democrat. Bernie Sanders may still be registered as an independent, But he is a far better Democrat than anyone running for the nomination in the Democratic Party. How do I know this? Because, as I've said before, he is the only Democrat who is the inheritor and the follower of the legacy of FDR and Lyndon Johnson and Martin Luther King. He is the only Democrat who tries to follow and enhance and expand what they did. All the others are fakers. And Mr. Bloomberg, in particular, is just a right-wing Republican. This moneybag monster. He's a Republican. He's a winger. He's likely even a fascist. My camera seems to have gone off, so I will plug it in. Barney cannot tell that that's true because she has come in here and is staring at me and is not keeping watch of what is going on. Here we are. Here we are. We are here again. I'm still here. This was a tough article, strong language. It was a tough article. I thought you needed to hear it, even though it's very late now. Okay, and the people still here are small, and Russ has just announced that he's got to call it a night. But this will be here. I will download it, okay, and the video will be here. But what I wanted also to point out is I don't think that the mayor is really running for the presidency. He's running for a brokered convention because he knows very well that no other Democrat is going to stay around. No other Democrat is going to hurt him with the taxes and with the programs that Bernie Sanders is going to implement if he comes into the presidency. What we're talking about here is an entirely different world under Bernie Sanders. Okay, I won't have time to go into this following article today because, of course, as you know, it's all very late and many of you probably want to go to bed. But what we all have to keep in mind, is that it is absolutely essential that Bernie Sanders win on the first round, that he get those 1,900 and 91 delegates that he needs. The reason why that is so very important is because if this goes to a second round, it is, in my view, unlikely that anyone will be able to get a majority of the delegates' votes in the second round. The reason why I think that is because 771 delegates will be added to the second round. The second round will require not 1,991 delegates, but 2,376 delegates. If most of Bernie's delegates should stick with him, which is probably likely to happen, I'm sure by the end of the first round, the other people will be way behind Bernie. I mean, they might have 700 delegates or 800 delegates or something like that. But they are split among themselves. They're not all going to organize behind a single candidate. They're not all going to coalesce around Elizabeth Warren, for example. At least not in the second round. They're going to stick in it. If Warren has, let's say, 600 delegates, and Mayor Pete has 500 delegates, and Amy Klobuchar has maybe 600 delegates, and Joe Biden has maybe 900 or 1,000 delegates. Do you really think that Mayor Pete is going to throw his delegates to Joe Biden? At that point, I think he's going to wait the situation out. He's going to wait things out. If Mayor Bloomberg is still in the race there, and he's got 500 or 600 delegates himself, he may try to organize a coalition. He may get Amy and he may get Pete behind him, or he may create a coalition where one of them is actually running. But at that point, why would Joe Biden, who's likely to have at this point maybe 800 or 900 delegates or something like that, why would he join that particular coalition? He would do so only if they were willing to make him the president of the United States, or to try to make him the president of the United States. But do those four have a sufficient number of delegates to make it to the 2,376? And why would Elizabeth Warren join them? What does she have to gain? I mean, I know they might say, well, we'll make you the vice president. But why would she want to be the vice president to Joe Biden, with the power behind the throne being Mayor Bloomberg? I mean, she does want to get a few things done. She doesn't want to be the vice president just for the sake of being the vice president. I mean, I don't see her that way. She's going to say she's the most qualified to be president, and they all ought to organize around her. So what's going to happen in that case? I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen. But I don't think anybody's going to be able to get a majority of delegates on the second round. So then it might go to a third round. I mean, it might go to a fourth round. And what if most of Bernie's delegates stay with him in the first round? And let's say he gets 200 or 300 of the superdelegates. Then he'd still be short of the 2,376 he needs, but he'd be the closest to the 2,376. It seems to me in that situation, Warren gains the most by joining with Bernie as Bernie's vice president. She'd be much better off doing that than she would be joining Joe Biden's ticket as his vice president, or Mayor Bloomberg's ticket as his vice president, or Buttigieg's ticket. I mean, I don't see why she would look at Buttigieg at all. Yes, I know about all the dishonesty that has characterized her campaign. I know about all the manipulation, and all the selling out. But I still think that she does want to do some constructive things in her own rights. And that with the kinds of deals that the other four would be offering her, unless they offer her the presidency itself, I don't see her doing a deal with them. And if they offered her the presidency itself, I mean, maybe Klobuchar would agree to that, but why would Buttigieg agree to that? And why would Bloomberg agree to that? He tried to support Scott Brown when she ran for the Senate. Not that he tried to support Scott Brown. She did support Scott Brown. I mean, he did support Scott Brown. He contributed big money from a PAC to Scott Brown to block Elizabeth Warren. So why in the end is he going to sit still for Elizabeth Warren to become the nominee of the Democratic Party? She's not as bad as Bernie, of course, from his point of view. I mean, but she's plenty bad. Would he really spend 600, 800 million, or maybe $1 billion for the privilege of seeing Elizabeth Warren? I don't know. But what I have to say now is please share, like, and subscribe. And when the YouTube video goes up, please become a patron at https:// and so on, www.patreon.com/Joe_Firestone. There it is up on the screen. I'm not finished though. I do want to say something else, okay, which is important. Recently, some of my videos have been getting played with by Facebook. Facebook has been removing them so no one can see them except for myself. And in one case, they completely removed it so I can't even see it. And what they did then was to actually cause me to lose that video. It was the one I did on the debate night, okay, because I failed to make a record of it as a local stream, okay, on that occasion, and I wasn't able to download it, okay, and put it up on YouTube. So what, okay, I'm telling you is, if you suddenly see that I'm absent from Facebook for some reason, check me out on the YouTube channel, or look for me, okay, on Periscope, okay, or other social media. I will still be there. I will still be live streaming, and you can still see my stuff. And I'd appreciate it if you can tell everybody in private messages what is happening and what may happen to me. And that, considering what Facebook is doing, okay, they should be on the lookout. I expect that this video will be characterized as violating community standards also. Okay. But as so many others who live stream for you and for the people have found, the oligarchs who run the major media on the platforms are hostile to what we have to say, and they monkey with us. So please share, like, and subscribe, and please go to my Patreon account every once in a while. I really need your support in order to continue telling the truth as I see it. So thank you. I'm going to end for tonight. I may see you tomorrow for a little while to go over the article I failed to go over, which is a very important one, and it's an upbeat one, and I wanted to leave you with an upbeat one, if I could. I hope I've now gotten my technical problems, the sound problems, and the video problems fixed. this one finally looked good, I think. So, have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully, I will try to see you tomorrow. If not, I'll be around Monday somewhere. I don't know where yet.